Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Friday Night Party Redux Edition. That was an 8-bit version of the Avengers theme song. This is Bobo. We are live on Spreaker.com. We are live on YouTube, and we are on iHeartRadio as well as Spreaker.
Many other places as well,
I'm
sure.
Spotify. That's the other one I wish I remember.
There you go.
Yeah, Spotify. As always, Bobo here with my esteemed co-host.
my esteemed
co-host. C. As said in the description of the podcast, we are going to be talking about the one and only
Great Stan Lee.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to say about it.
Oh yeah.
As everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone in the world knows at this point, he passed away on Monday.
For real this time.
Yeah, for real this time. Yeah, there's been a few different...
Well, about 12 years ago, there was a false report that went out that he died, but
yeah,
he showed up in a movie cameo
what?
A few years ago?
I was going to say, yeah.
A few years later?
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't been showing himself a whole lot. He wasn't in the public eye a whole lot for a while there. And now we're never going to get to see another Stan Lee cameo.
No, he has a bunch of them recorded, but after a few years, they're going to suddenly stop, and it's going to be depressing.
It is. So one of the things I want to do today is I want to talk about how Stan Lee touched our lives individually, your life, my life. We have a very warm tribute that I'll read from the Moose. And yeah, so it's going to be... Prepare for tears, folks.
It's going to be a bittersweet one.
Mm-hmm. What I do want to do, and I do this first because it's fresh in my mind, and I know if I don't do it, I won't do it. First thing I want to do, and this is also in the description, is I want to talk about something that Umsi and I went and watched last night at the movie theater.
Yeah, you're welcome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It was so good. And so we went and saw Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. First thing I'm going to say, this will be a no spoilers review.
All I'm going to say about it is that I feel like Johnny Depp just wandered onto a set without any makeup on. And they were just like, all right, I guess Johnny Depp's here now. And then he was just like...
Well, I think he wandered onto the end of the other one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then they're just like, well, now we gotta...
He wandered on and he was like, hello, I'm Johnny Depp. They're like, okay, get him.
Done.
He's now our villain for the next movie. Kinda. He's more like an anti-hero.
He is.
Well, not an anti-hero. He's just a... He's not a...
Grindelwald is complex.
He's chaotic neutral,
He's
from what I know.
Chaotic evil.
Yeah. Chaotic evil.
Evil.
Because he's good in other people's eyes, but he's evil in others, so it's like... I mean, then again, you know what, the same thing could be said for a leader back in World War II, but we're not going to go into that.
Just say it, because why not? Considering that, later we'll talk about somebody who punched Hitler in the face repeatedly.
It was me.
Oh, well, I thought it was Captain America, who was a creation of, Stan the Man Lee.
Oh, yeah, it was Captain America.
So, okay. I will preface this by saying we watched it in 3D, which, because I'm old, and my eyes are funky, I don't like 3D.
Yeah, I don't like 3D either. Like, I wasn't really a big fan of having to be more or less forced to watch it in 3D.
Yeah.
Like, the 3D effects weren't that bad. Like, they were actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah, they were. I didn't get a complete and utter migraine from these ones like I did in Wausau when I was at a 3D movie. But it was still 3D. It was still hard on my eyes. But anyway, yeah, so keep in mind when I'm reviewing this, I'm reviewing it from watching it in 3D and being constantly distracted by things being right up here.
Oh yeah,
I'm right in front of my nose. Like, oh hey, it's pretty.
Yeah, there were a lot of moments where there were like sparks and stuff, and there were like feathers falling, and it was like, huh, that's right there.
I feel like I could reach out and touch it. We actually.
It was a surprisingly, I'd never watched the first movie because I never had the chance, but I did go into this and I didn't feel like I missed a whole lot, honestly.
They did a good job of not making it like horrible for someone who didn't see the first movie.
Yeah, although I did have a big stupid grin on my face when. Is it a spoiler if I say that he shows up? Because he was like all over the place. A certain headmaster.
Oh yeah, no, that's not a spoiler.
Yeah,
Jude Law as Dumbledore has been out there, and there's, I think, 5 or 6 different options or different like trailer.
Yeah, so like I only ever saw one ad for the movie.
Yeah, there was every trailer that I saw had him in it.
Yeah. But I had a big dumb grin on my face because I used to watch and read Harry Potter movies all the time. And suddenly having young Dumbledore show up was like, oh, hey.
And it was really cool because he was Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
Yep.
And that's not anything...
They kept some good canon continuity.
Yeah. Well, and they did. And honestly, they did that throughout the movie.
I'm not going to say we just did because I'm too busy weirded out by it that it just happened.
My pants have a problem where the zipper doesn't like to stay up. Anyway, it was a good movie. Overall, I'm going to let you know right now, I rated it at a 6.5. Most of that is because I had to watch it in 3D. And the 3D effects were fantastic. They were good. I can't say they weren't good. It's just when you're fighting a headache through 85% of the movie, you miss things.
Oh, yeah.
So right now it's a 6.5. When I watch the 2D version, it might go down. Or up. It might go both. I don't know.
Who knows?
Probably up. But anyway.
The last thing... The last battle, that was really, really cool.
The last battle is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was, even though I didn't understand half of what was going on.
Well, and like I said, all in all, with you going in blind, it did good.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to say about this is if you're planning on taking your kids to this.
It gets really, really dark.
Really dark. In the first 10 minutes, and this isn't really a spoiler, because, I mean, when you see Grindelwald, like, when you see the horses, the Thestrals, with the flying carriage, there is a little bit of a battle scene there. I'm not going to go into any details, but there are 10 assumed deaths in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's in the first, 12 minutes of the movie?
Give or take.
There's about 10 assumed deaths.
Yeah, it's dark.
It's dark. But the opening to me was... It felt a little George R.R. Martin to me. Little Game of Thronesy there. You know, killing... potentially killing.
Yeah.
Again, it's assumed deaths. It's not.
However, there were a lot of spells cast in the movie where, after watching Harry Potter, I'm like, why didn't you use that in the Harry Potter trilogy or not trilogy? Was it
7 movies
or the books? It's like, why didn't you use that one? Why didn't you do this, this?
Well, remember, movie spells, especially, are extended. Like, for example, in the fifth movie, Bombarda Maxima. It's what Umbridge uses to break through the wall to get into the Room of Requirement.
Mm.
Technically, that's not how it happened. It's not how it happened in the books at all. Because you can't blast your way into the Room of Requirement. That would completely and utterly defeat the purpose they use it for in the seventh book.
Ah.
So, they did it in a quick way as opposed to doing it the right way. And that's always bothered me. But we'll get into... We will sit down and we will do a Harry Potter movie marathon. And then we'll sit down and do an episode of what I hate about it. Which I can fill an entire episode with what I hate on the fourth movie alone, but we won't go there. I'll do a brief one over the whole series. Anyway, The Crimes of Grindelwald, overall, a 6.5, probably a 7 when I watch it in 2D, maybe an 8. I don't know. Hopefully I won't be as distracted the second time I'm watching it by pretty lights and floaty sparks.
Yeah, it also felt super awkward because a certain someone was reacting out loud quite often, and there was this one dude who kept on turning around and looking at me instead of you.
I don't care. I don't care. If you don't expect someone to react out loud in a movie theater, then you're stupid. I'm sorry.
I mean...
You're stupid.
If it wasn't crowded.
It wasn't crowded.
I mean, like, around us.
Well, yeah, but that was just their choices, and I'm not going to go sit in the side wings of a movie theater if I have an option of being dead center.
Hey, man, if we had an upper floor, I would totally go up there.
No shit, right? But yeah, so Crimes of Grindelwald, overall...
I would give it like a 5, just because it's average, and I never saw the first one, so I don't really know the lore.
And, I mean, the lore is really important for that.
Yeah,
it's really important.
I mostly went through it because I knew that you really wanted to see it.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, I really wanted to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally the. I mean, it's important to the lore, and the lore is important to me because I run Harry Potter roleplay games, so it works for me. So that being said, we're going to do one little break, and then we'll go into Stan Lee. We'll be right back. Hey, Wisconsin listeners, this is Bobo. The games and movies we talk about on the P3 network could be yours. How? Check out Mojo's Electronics in Antigo, Shawano, and Oshkosh, Wisconsin. That's Mojo's Electronics, exclusive friends of the P3 Podcast Network.
Bob, can I come out of the basement yet?
Hey guys, alright, we're back. Just wanted to do a little quick break because I needed a moment to be able to switch gears. This is the Friday Night Party Redux edition, live on Spreaker.com, YouTube, also on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Anybody who's listening to us on Spotify or iHeartRadio, thank you very much. We appreciate your listenage, I guess. So, switching gears, we are going to talk a little bit about Stan Lee. For me, I'm going to start. Stan Lee has been he's such a force. He was such a force, and he still is going to be a force because nothing is going to change what he did. Nothing is going to change what he means to the comic book industry. Stan Lee made me love superheroes. Everything from the Fantastic Four, which was his first, to all of the movies now, and everything that he has done over the years, it's just been phenomenal. And I mean, I haven't read nearly as many comics as, say, Charisma.
Yeah.
Or even, I don't even know if...
Oh, I read a lot of comics.
Yeah, I haven't even read nearly as many as you. I can guarantee that. But the ones I've read, I mean, I've read quite a few.
Oh, yeah.
And Fantastic Four at first was always my favorite. It was my first big superhero movie, was going to see the Fantastic Four movie. My first hero action figure was...
Is it going to be The Thing?
No, Johnny Storm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Human Torch, man. And then it was The Thing, because it was actually a McDonald's toy.
I think this is kind of heresy for a podcast about Stan Lee, but my first comics and just superheroes in general were always like Superman. And then I moved on to the more traditional Stan Lee comics, like stuff like The Amazing Spider-Man, back when... And then the original comics back were saying that you foiled someone's boner was a normal thing, because the word boner used to mean something very, very different. But, I mean, Stan Lee was good at teaching people that being different is okay. Mm-hmm. And that's more than I'm sure a lot of people could ask for.
Oh, no doubt. For someone who's been different all his life, because I'm 6'7", my ears, I had to grow into my ears. I was weird. I was awkward. Reading comic books was my escape. I mean, personally, I started out, other than Fantastic Four, I started out with Batman and Robin comic books. So, I mean, really, but even the DC universe reached out. Did you see some of the artwork that's been up?
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of this stuff.
Oh man, seeing the DC universe standing kind of behind the Marvel universe, like you see the Marvel people up in front, then you have like a crowd of DC heroes in the back, and you see Stan Lee's grave. Oh man, that was
wasn't that the casket?
Was it the casket or was it the grave?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was both.
Maybe.
And I know I've seen a couple of them, but my favorite one was DC in the back, like just kind of watching, like, hey man, we feel you guys. We're mourning too. There's so much. The man, I can't even, like, it's really hard to put into words everything that Stan Lee means to everybody. Like I said before, Moose did give it a try, and we'll...
Oh, it's a long document.
It is.
So this might take up the last little bit of the podcast.
Well, but this is Moose we're talking about.
Yeah,
so
I don't care. I'm just saying it might take up a little bit more.
Well, it won't take up the whole thing, because I'm gonna read it reverently, not like horribly fast. But no, the thing is the Moose has always been better at putting things into words than I have. So for me, this is going to be very similar to how I feel, and very similar, and just he's always good. We'll get this up here. Hold on one second here.
I mean, the funny thing is, I think one of my first comics was when I was like 8 years old, and it was my great grandmother's issue of The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2.
Oh wow!
And I'm sure that costs a lot now.
Oh, I'm sure now,
but it's like, Yeah, I don't know where that is.
Okay. So this is the Moose's thoughts on Stan Lee's passing. How does one summarize such a force in the world of comic books? With some advice from his wife Joan, advice to experiment with stories he preferred, Lee acted on that advice, giving his superheroes a flawed humanity, a change from the ideal archetypes that were typically written for preteens. Before this, most superheroes were idealistically perfect people with no serious, lasting problems. Stan Lee introduced complex, naturalistic characters who could have bad tempers, fits of melancholy, and vanity. They bickered amongst themselves, worried about paying their bills and impressing girlfriends, got bored, or were even sometimes physically ill. This man, along with Jack Kirby, took Marvel toe-to-toe against the giant that was known as DC. That flawed humanity led to his first comic, Fantastic Four. Many more came: Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, X-Men, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, the Avengers, and Marvel's most famous character, Spider-Man. These comics became a cornerstone for many fans, Moose included, who goes on to say, "I loved X-Men. It was one of the first comics I ever collected. I loved the show on Saturday morning, had a lot of the action figures. I read X-Men regularly. Many of my early comics became so loved and worn they fell apart." And Stan Lee did so much for so many people. I think for me, it will be the cameo. Having Stan Lee appear in so many Marvel movies, whether it be non-speaking or speaking roles.
And even a video game.
It's true.
He was recently in the Spider-Man game for PS4.
He always popped big when he would appear. While surfing the web, I saw something about the cameo, saying that there will be a day that we no longer will see a Stan Lee cameo. But the words, "in memory of Stan Lee," while we knew that all things must come to an end, we didn't feel that today would be that day. In memory of Stan Lee, and that will now be part of the Marvel movies. No longer will be the creator be part of what he created. Marvel will not be the same anymore, and nor will we. Godspeed, Stan Lee. You are loved, and you will be missed. Excelsior. Like I said, Moose has always had a great thing for words, and this is a prime example. I knew this was going to be an emotional episode, but damn. Stan Lee is and always will be the icon of Marvel.
He's the greatest superhero.
He is the hero of heroes.
He's a real life superhero too.
Yes, he is. Was. No, is. I'm sorry. I understand that it is was, but he is, and I think that they will keep him immortalized so it can be is and not just was. You were wrong. That didn't quite take as long as you thought.
I mean,
we still have 20 minutes that we can go. I am going to take about 37 seconds of that, though. And we'll be back momentarily.
Hey, this is Bobo.
and this is Umsi.
And we want to talk to you about our other shows here on the P3 Network.
Most Fridays, of course, you can catch myself and Bobo on the Friday Night Party Redux Edition live on Spreaker, YouTube, and a little later on Spotify.
And earlier in the week, you can catch me, the independent Pokemon champion, and Charisma, the P3 Pokemon Stadium champion, on Vintage Reviews with Bobo.
And coming soon, you'll be able to catch Bobo and a new contributor on an all-new podcast called Wisconsin Sports News.
So that's the rundown of the P3 Network's current programming. And now, back to the show.
All right, we're back. It's the Friday Night Party Redux Edition live on Spreaker.com, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Okay. I've seen so much about Stan Lee One of my favorites is that they have to have Deadpool. That they should have Deadpool appear in every movie with the Stan Lee wig.
Oh,
Stan Lee.
Well, what I think is it should be like a Deadpool shows up. He's only wearing the glasses with the goatee.
Yeah.
And he just makes he does like a really, really, really bad Stan Lee impression.
I don't think they should do it every movie. I think they should do it like
when it's necessary.
Like I think they should do it in the Deadpool movies.
Well, no, because that would because Stan Lee is always supposed to be the odd one out in a movie. Like for example, in the first Deadpool movie, he was literally in a strip club.
Yeah, the DJ in the strip club.
Yeah, so
which was fantastic.
Seeing him is kind of always like out of place, even in Deadpool movies. So I feel like just having like, for example, if now that actually Fox is owned by Disney, right?
As far as I understand,
Disney owns Marvel, so X-Men is probably going to be in the MCU, which means we can actually get a canon Deadpool X-Men interaction. And if he showed up just in the background or something with the glasses, the goatee, the shirt and the pants,
but like still his Deadpool.
Yeah, like he's still wearing the Deadpool outfit. It's just he's wearing all this stuff over it.
Yeah, like you can see the arms.
Yeah,
and the mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, and I mean, yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic, and I think that hopefully, knock on wood, it's something that Marvel considers doing because, I mean, I could see Stan Lee laughing at that.
Yeah, you know what? Same here.
I mean, I could see him just rolling, laughing.
I mean,
no, go ahead.
If I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna mention this very, very briefly because I don't want us to get in trouble. From what I heard, Stan Lee was pretty mistreated by his agent, and I would say family, but that's more of a rumor than anything.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's purely a rumor.
Yeah,
but I think the agent thing was actually kind of
fucked up. Like,
we won't go into it any further because it's not something that we're not here to deal in.
Yeah, we're here to remember Stan Lee for the good man that he was.
Exactly. And I mean, the most important thing that he ever taught me, like I said before, was you just being different isn't bad. And for someone who's been different all his life, that was pretty important.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can see that one of my ears has a little bit of a tip over the other. Yeah. So, I mean, I was always made fun of because I didn't get to grow into my ears. I was always. I know this is funny now, considering, but I actually, I have a. I was always the shortest one in my class until like 5th-ish grade. I was always the shortest and the skinniest. I was considered malnourished for a while.
Oh, wow.
So, being different is part of what makes humans humans.
I was always the tallest, obviously.
Well, yeah.
And, I mean, you get teased mercilessly for being different no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
So what if they're bigger and can beat you up? I could never beat anybody up, but that's besides the point. I was the gentle giant. I was the one who would be more willing to give an offer a helping hand than to push someone to the ground. You really had to piss me off to make me do anything violent. And in all actuality, that's because of, one, the way I was raised, and two, because violence, because comic books are about superheroes, or a lot of them are, doesn't mean that violence was always the resort. Violence, in actually a lot of heroes' eyes, is the worst resort. And that was one of the things that I took from comic books. You don't always have to hit someone. You can come up with more clever, witty ways to avoid conflict.
In fact, this isn't a good example, but we discussed this on the way to Taco Bell, is how one of Stan Lee's comic book characters was fighting another, Spider-Man versus the Hulk.
Right, yep.
And I don't think any hits were landed. It was more just Spider-Man using his wits and being faster than the Hulk. And that's how he won.
And I mean, and that's the key. Like, I mean, how often did Spider-Man actually haul out and punch someone?
Well, quite often, but still.
But what was his first? Pew, 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 what was his first thing?
Thwip.
Trying to wrap him up. He never hit someone that wasn't a super villain.
Yeah,
he didn't hit normal people.
Well, if he hit them, they would explode. But I digress.
No, with normal people, he would just, and they'd be up over a phone pole.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I mean, that's kind of what I adopted, because I was huge. If I started wailing on someone, they, might break something. And, and that's what I never really liked violence. I mean, I'll watch it in movies. I'll, that kind of thing. But that's not what I'm about. And it's never been what I was about. And it was, I put that on the morals of heroes.
Superheroes, a lot of people say that you shouldn't idolize them, but there's a lot of them, mainly like the more recent Iron Man. Spider-Man has always been a good one, because Spider-Man in the comics, or Peter Parker I should say, was always the weird nerdy kid who always got picked on and stuff like that, and he never broke his persona as Peter Parker. He never beat anybody up. He was always just like,
he would still trip over things.
Yeah.
He would still,
he was still human, even though he wasn't quote unquote human. He was a superhuman.
Right.
But Peter Parker was, for all intents and purposes, a human.
And he was the most human, in my opinion, other than, of course, Tony Stark. He was the most human of the characters.
Avengers.
Well, more Marvel.
Yeah.
Unless you count in, like, Jessica Jones, who is pretty human.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the mutants with less active powers, if that makes sense.
Daredevil is Marvel, right?
Yeah, Daredevil
is literally just a blind guy with a suit.
With who can fight like a beast.
Yeah, Daredevil for a blind guy is a badass.
Yeah, he is. And I mean, you're looking at, when you look at like what Moose said in his thing, when you look at Marvel superheroes, they all have flaws.
Yep. And
that's one of the things I loved about it. And that's one of the things that Stan Lee
felt like the pioneer for superheroes having personality, rather than Superman being one of the first. Was always the symbol of hope and perfection in the American way.
Yeah.
And he could never lose. He would always do this, that, and the other thing. And he was more or less he was a god in human skin.
Yeah.
And obviously, eventually, he started developing backstory and became more human. And I believe that has to do with Stan Lee, Jack Kirby making superheroes more
human.
Yeah, more human.
And I mean, his, and of course Superman's backstory is one of the things that has developed so slowly.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it developed so slowly. It was like you'd get a bit here, a bit there, a bit here, and you could go 10 issues without a single bit.
Yeah.
And you could go 10 issues with him just fighting Lex Luthor or just fighting, somebody else. I don't know.
There's a lot of DC villains.
He had a lot of villains, and the biggest one that I'm familiar with is Lex Luthor.
Well, there's Darkseid.
Well, yeah, Darkseid,
etc. But we're not gonna. This isn't about DC. This is about Marvel.
But I feel like it's because of, like you said, it's because of Stan Lee. It's because of
Jack Kirby.
Thank you, Jack Kirby. Write that down quick so I don't forget. Because of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, that we did get the humanized versions of DC.
Yeah.
Because...
Like, Marvel has Captain Marvel,
right,
who is essentially Marvel's female version of Superman.
Exactly.
And she is, compared to Superman, definitely more human.
Oh, yeah.
And she actually has flaws, etc. Like, she's not a god. She's a superhero, obviously. Yeah. But
and she's alien. Yeah. Just like Clark Kent. Kal-El.
Yeah.
And we're getting her movie soon.
Which I'm very excited about. Bob is currently dancing.
Yeah, I am. And, I mean, I'm really excited about that because I don't know much about Captain Marvel. Like, I really don't. Like, that was not one of the ones I picked up. I was more into the ones with, like I said, I was more into the Batman and Robin, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man eventually, and I was an X-Men fan. I loved the show and stuff.
You need to look in the Grey Hulk stuff. It's really, really crazy.
Okay. I will have to look into that. And then, of course, as I've gotten older, I've been watching every movie that's come out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've missed 2.
Like maybe Venom and...
Well, I don't count Venom right now, but there's a reason for that.
Oh, because it's not part of the MCU.
Yeah. And
that's
then plus, I don't count Venom because there's no direct link.
Yeah, no.
With the rest of the MCU. And I mean, I think I've missed. I didn't watch Thor: Dark World yet. I didn't watch. Oh, what's the other one? Oh, Ant-Man. I didn't watch Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Good movie. Very, very, very good movie.
Well, we'll definitely have to do. We're gonna definitely do more with that.
So,
we're down to our final little bit here. And just like I had said, I want to read something else.
This is from Matt, a friend of ours.
Oh. I didn't get Matt's.
Oh, I thought
Did you
that
get
was...
Matt's? No, this is something I found on Facebook that just...
my bad.
So, after this... we are going to do 57 seconds of silence in honor of Stan Lee's 57-year career. He started an era. He shaped a century. He made a difference. And now he left us, leaving behind a legacy. He was the hero that made heroes come true. He made us love comic books. He made us love superheroes. He made us love his cameos and all cameos.
More or less, yeah.
The combination of words are not enough to describe this man. Thank you, Stan Lee, with the greatest of love and respect.
Excelsior.
Excelsior. And thank you all for listening. This has been the Friday Night Party Redux Edition. And now, 57 seconds of silence in honor of Stan the Man Lee.